Hey everyone, this is Leland from Themetry, and in this video I'll be demonstrating the flexible footer widgets theme for WordPress. Now obviously this isn't much to look at, but keep in mind its sole purpose is to demonstrate this flexible footer widgets technique. We don't want any other extra stuff. So anyway, what are flexible footer widgets? So let's say you have a theme with 3 footer widget columns, kind of like this one, and each column corresponds to its own widget area. We'll tab over to the widget settings page on this site just to illustrate how it would correspond. So we see footer 1 has search and recent posts, footer 2 has archive and recent comments, footer 3 has category and meta, and that corresponds with column 1, column 2, and column 3. In a theme that doesn't have flexible footer widgets, if you removed all the widgets in one of the columns, like this, you would just have a blank space where the footer widgets were, kind of like this. So before and after. Now we don't think that's a great experience for users. With flexible footer widgets, the remaining columns would expand into that blank space, like this. Now we really like this technique and would like to see more WordPress themes that have footer widget columns to use it so they can offer more flexibility to their users. Now we're going to release the full source code to this flexible footer widgets theme so you can see how the technique works, but we'll quickly outline the main parts of it right now. So first, obviously you're going to need to register each footer widget area. We have 3 columns, so we register 3 widget areas. Now this code will go into your theme's functions.php file. Now you can technically have unlimited footer widget columns, but it's probably going to start looking pretty crammed with any more than 3 columns, maybe 4 at the most. So for the purposes of this tutorial, we're just going to stick with 3. Next, of course, you'll need to output the widget areas. Now these were registered in the previous snippet of code. Now we're going to place this code in our theme's footer.php file. Of course, you can output these widget areas wherever you want. They could be flexible header widget columns, but since you typically see widget columns like this in the footer, we'll do the same. Now pay attention to the markup and how we're using conditional tags. We have a footer widgets div that wraps around all of the columns. Since we're going to be using CSS floats for the column, this will come in handy when we need to clear fix them. Also note how we wrap everything in a conditional tag. This is checking to see if any of the footer widget areas are in use, and if not, no footer widget related markup will be output. Now this is part of the flexibility of the flexible footer widgets. Even if the user doesn't want any footer widgets at all, then the theme should account for that. Also note how we wrap each footer column div in a conditional tag, so they won't output at all if the associated widget area isn't active. Now this is crucial because the CSS we're going to use to make things flexible relies on how many siblings each footer widget column div has. Now the CSS code is where the main magic happens. We're using nth child pseudo-classes to check how many siblings each footer widget column div has. Note that you can string together pseudo-classes. Just to put things in a family metaphor, if a baby is the first child and the last child, you can assume they're the only child. In the context of footer widget columns, an only child would have 100% width. If a baby is the first child and the second to last child, you can assume that that baby has 1 sibling. That means the other baby in this 2-baby family is the second child and the last child. And in the context of footer widget columns, 2 of them would each be 50% width. And you can combine the selectors of both to make sure each have an equal width. Hopefully you get the point by now without having me to go into a 3-baby example, but basically first child is going to be third from the last, second child second from last, third child last child, 3 columns with 33.333 repeating percent width in the context of a footer widget column div. Now I cannot take credit for the CSS technique. I don't know if I would have ever even thought of this myself. I learned about this from Leah Varu's blog, so you can read more about it there if you're interested. And to wrap up, since these columns are floated, a clear fix should be applied to the footer widgets div. We can just plug this into the clear fix selector already in the theme. And that's all there is to it. It's not a terribly complicated technique, and it's a way to provide more flexibility to your users without having an explicit theme option for just choosing how many footer widget columns to have. Remember, all this code is published for free on Themetry's GitHub account, so if you want to see how the flexible footer widgets work in a live environment, just download and install the flexible footer widgets theme. Again, this is Leland from Themetry. Thanks so much for watching.